And India's Ministry of External Affairs has firmly rejected China's efforts to rename locations in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. In a statement, India's Ministry of External Affairs said creative naming will not alter the undeniable reality that Arunachal Pradesh was, is, and will always remain an integral and inalienable part of India. The MEA noted that China has persisted with its vain and preposterous attempts, now that India rejects such attempts categorically. India's response comes after China's Ministry of Civil Affairs released the fifth list of names renaming locations in Arunachal Pradesh on May 11th. China's creative naming spree in India's Arunachal Pradesh began in 2017, when Beijing released a list of 6 locations. Now, this increased to 15 locations in the second list released in 2021, followed by 11 locations in 2023. In April last year, China released a fourth list of 30 names, which India rejected, saying inventing names does not alter reality. The latest list includes 27 locations. Now, meanwhile, India has blocked the X accounts of China's state-run daily Global Times and China's official state news agency, Xinhua, for peddling disinformation concerning India's Operation Sindoor. The move follows a public rebuke issued by the Indian Embassy in Beijing earlier this week, warning Global Times over its coverage of the military operation. In a direct post on X, the embassy stated, "Dear Global Times News, we would recommend you verify your facts and cross-examine your sources before pushing out this kind of disinformation."
Well, this is not the first time that China has indulged in cartographic aggression against India, and it doesn't look that this will be the last time. But essentially, we know that how the timing is something that is closely watched. Now, this is happening just a day after the understanding was achieved between India and Pakistan. On 10th of May, India and Pakistan achieved the understanding, and thereafter we saw this decision being taken. And of course, after the notification, the order also came. But all in all, the Indian side has been wary about China, given the fact that how relationship is. We saw green shoots of recovery after the Indian Prime Minister and the Chinese President met last year on the sidelines of the Kazan BRICS summit. But thereafter, we know that while officials have been meeting, the India-Pakistan conflict showed that how China has been supportive of the Pakistani stance, whether it is regretting, that is the statement and the word used by the Chinese side after Indian strikes on terror camps in Pakistan, or whether it is essentially coming out with this notification. In fact, Indian strikes on terror camps in Pakistan being regretted by China shows where China stands. In fact, China is the country which has been blocking listing of Pakistani terrorists as international terrorists in the past, and something that is well known. It is only after the Chinese block was removed, after giving them concrete evidence of involvement of Pakistani terrorists, that China relented. But essentially, we know that China-Pakistan nexus relationship is a relationship which has been working against India. Now this development coming at a time when the relationship between Islamabad and New Delhi is going down is something that shows the Chinese position. Now, essentially, the Indian statement clearly states that whatever China does, it doesn't really matter, because reality is that Arunachal Pradesh was and will remain an Indian territory, while China has been claiming it as part of South Tibet. But that is Chinese policy, to be aggressive, to stake claim of neighbors' territory. And this is just not with India, with other countries in the region as well. You look at South China Sea, there is a major issue there. So essentially, this is a development which is now emerging. And India, of course, earlier today also blocked Chinese propaganda handles like Global Times, a website, a news agency which is backed by the Chinese Communist Party, and during the conflict was heavily relying on Pakistani news reports to report against India.
Right, and that being said, also we know that Turkish military assets were used by Pakistan, and now we know that Turkish social media, where we say Turkish broadcaster WION The World has also been blocked. How do you assess all these developments coming in from the Turkish side as well?
Well, this conflict showed one thing, that where Turkey and China along with Azerbaijan stand when it comes to India relationship, and when it comes to Turkish relationship, we have seen The Turkish leadership commenting, in fact, President Erdogan just yesterday evening made comments and he said that Pakistan is a close brother of Turkey, and we all know now that India has also confirmed that how Turkish drones were used against India when Pakistan invaded India, and Chinese missiles were used against India as well. Of course, the only thing that happened was the wreckage of these defense assets came out, and essentially these wreckage are also symbolic of where the India-Turkey and India-China relationship are heading towards. While India-China relationship saw green shoots of recovery, the current development is going to have an impact. India-Turkey relationship was on a back foot for a pretty long time, but it could have been salvaged, but it looks like Turkey's loyalty lies with the terror state rather than with a democratic India.
Right, Sugand. Of course, we'll be looking at how all these developments go forward. But thank you so much for joining and giving us all the updates.